I was talking to somebody the other day, actually, online, and he brought up a really valid question. I say he, but I meant her, and it was a chick on a webcam I was paying for porn. But I'm going to make my point anyway. So,
did you make her look up Warmachine stuff?
This is. I would pay to watch you on a webcam talking about errata to some random half-naked bitch. That's funny.
So check out the fucking webcam.
We're doing this. This is gonna happen.
I'm financing it.
Holy shit!
Get the cameras.
Wait for it.
Hello and welcome to Learn to Wargame, the audio podcast. This is Brandon, or PG Mulis on the forums, and I play Convergence.
Are you serious? You're going Convergence right now?
Shut the fuck up and introduce yourself. Be useful!
Just fucking Convergence, really? People just turned off the podcast.
I hate my life.
It's alright, I hate your faction.
We were so professional until you fucking sons of bitches.
That just sounded canned as fuck.
Wait, we're supposed to be professional?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I have never been editing it that way.
That's entirely true. This is Spence. I don't actually play the game. Like, I own some models, and once in a while Brandon convinces me to put them on a table through guilt. Mostly through guilt. I guess that's going to be meant off when I do that.
I literally think that's the truest thing you've spoken in your entire life.
Yep.
This is Jeremey, and I am ready to get my swerve on.
Yeah, dog.
Is that what the kids say now?
He said it's swoon. Spence said that.
That's not swoon.
It was like 3 months ago
That's
he
not
said
it
that.
at all.
That's what you said.
I don't say things.
And joining us via Skype is...
This is Parker Guidry, like a motherfucker. That's not my Privateer Press forum handle. It's Tweak on the forums. And right now, I have decided to play Crix just now. Just this moment. But I usually play a lot of Cador and a lot of Signar. But I've decided to play Crix.
Crix?
Right?
So
So
normally you play red guys and blue guys?
Yes.
And now you play black guys?
Black guys, well, they're red guys and blue guys that have died, and now they've been brought back to the other
I'm just
guys.
thoroughly confused by this. So, like, you're playing Convergence, I'm not playing the game, and he's playing Crix.
Hmm?
The fuck has happened to us? Call Jake.
We don't like people that are alive.
And I played like 7 games last week.
Did you fucking really?
No.
I was about to say, there's no way.
There's no way.
Since I've known you,
That's
I've played
literally
7
not
games.
possible. He's never
So,
played 7 games.
Mainly, I've been sitting around on Thursdays going, where's Spence?
That's actually
You know where I live.
But he's not at the geekery.
There's a special squishy part in my heart just for you. So, PG Mutilus on the forums. What is our topic today?
Today we'll be talking about how the errata affects the different factions in the game.
Oh, how does it affect?
Even the black guys Parker plays?
That's correct.
Even all the black guys.
We're going to see how the errata affects black guys.
In case you don't understand the black guys comment, just reference the preamble. Parker made us do this. That's all.
I didn't make you do it.
Challenge accepted.
I submitted a challenge. You've accepted my challenge.
Okay, so going through the errata. First thing we'll talk about is new shakable effects. We'll start with blind. So blind is now a shakable effect.
Big fucking deal.
That's a big deal. Obviously, there's very few models in the game.
It's not that big of a deal. I mean, what, 2 models could do it?
2 models in the game. So, big nerf to Scorn. Their worst caster got worse.
I'm going to be honest with you. I play Scorn. I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
Morgul 2. He's got the fan.
Shut up.
Yep.
I'm serious.
That's a fucking...
That's one of 2 sources in the entire game.
If you'd like to play the game and you don't want to use a caster or warlock, you can run Morgul 2. That's how that works.
He's as good as Butcher 3 if you assume that you take away Butcher 3's spell list and feat except for Silence of Death.
And no weapon.
No, he's got a weapon. It's not as good.
PS16 Weapon Master Reach, that's kind of a thing
Versus
compared
like
to...
POW 12 Webmaster. It's only 4 less power.
Without Reach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not as much.
But he is acrobatic, which is basically Reach.
That's true.
And he stays. And
They
stays
both have
much
flashing
cooler.
blade. They're literally the same character.
Yep. Also, he has a fan in case he's hot.
Yeah, and he's Focus 5. That's the same as
Matt
Focus
9.
12.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Morgul 2, New Butcher 3, you heard it here.
It's not new. It's the original. OG.
No.
Mm-hmm.
That's so fucking...
But he's not the original.
So, anyway, the actual model of this realistically affects, obviously, is Gorman. Gorman is takeable in 5 factions, if you count Mercs. Is that right? The 4 originals and then Mercs.
Which you said.
Rick can Rick take
No. No,
Brett cannot.
So
And neither can Brandon's faction.
that's correct.
COC.
That's
It's not a real faction.
It is not a real faction.
They're real
They can't
bits.
take Gorman, therefore it's not a real faction. So I think a lot of people were wanting this to happen. I know, personally, I think that it was a long time coming. Blind was obviously too strong of an effect since huge base models came out.
Mhm.
Not to mention how strong it can just be anyway.
Blind was so good that you didn't have to actually plan to kill beasts and jacks. If you spent 2 points on a Gorman, you basically didn't have to have anti-jack. Because
you
you
had
could
2 or 3 turns to get rid of him.
And it also did things like if you were playing the Death Jack and they put down a Gorman, if you
You're 10
basically
points down.
you are done. Like the Death Jack's done because all he has to do is set up to get the Death Jack, and then you completely lost it.
Mhm.
So, and he could do that for almost everything except sometimes a storm wall because he might be able to zap him while they came in to get him. But that's
And that's not including the factions that just have hardcore problems because he's immune to fire for some unknown reason.
and
Like
corrosion.
Menoth just can't deal with him. Like you can,
Right.
certainly you can passage your own jacks, but if they're smart, they can run a guy in position to get a blast on you.
Every time you see a Legion player put it down, you just laugh and laugh and laugh.
Mhm.
So do you think this is going to kill the blind yourself?
You will probably
Man,
not
this-
see people blinding their own models anymore.
No.
Which, by the way, was the best tech ever.
Okay, so
Yeah.
in reality, the big swing that this is going to be is you're going to see less Gorman in play. That's.
I don't know that you'll see less Gorman. He might get forced into less lists, but he's probably going to see about the same amount of play.
I think if I can
Yeah.
open up 2 points in a lot of lists for something that they can potentially shake off, that's less. Because it was backbreaking whenever it was used. It was backbreaking.
It was backbreaking, but it no longer can be used as a completely defensive maneuver. It's now
Yeah.
an offensive maneuver. It still has a defensive component because a
Right.
jack that has to shake and then has to spend to charge you is not that scary.
And you're right. It forces your opponent to spend resources. But now the biggest deal is, like you said, dropping something by 4 defense is still ridiculously good.
Like an angel that's a 10-17 doesn't live
Right.
very long.
And it completely changes a turn. But again, it's that part of, yes, combos have always been part of the game. So yes, you get to throw the bomb, but you don't get to throw the bomb and then forget it. It's not a fire and forget now. It's now, so you throw the blind bomb, now your force must be ready to capitalize. So as an opponent, you can say, yes, I can let this model get Gorman because he's not going to be able to follow up with anything to take advantage of the -4 defense, and I can spend a focus or a fury to remove that, and it can still work.
Use Gorman as a verb. Gorman.
He's still easily worth 2 or 3 points. Just being able to drop a cloud is honestly one of his more powerful abilities.
Right.
People
Immune to fire.
underestimate having a 3-inch cloud wherever they want it sometimes.
Immune to fire, immune to corrosion, and a
Stealth.
3-inch cloud is in stealth is like where now you'll actually see people throw the. I threw the POW 12 bomb all the time, the corrosive bomb. You'll see people throw rust bomb now because they want to take down the heavy with the -2 armor. Like it's still, if you have snipe in your list, he should be in every snipe list just because it's an amazing way to drop snipe way far away and hit that. Like if you have some way to, like Dougal McNail, if he's already in your list, he should be in the list, but he's not the auto include he was in every control list like he was before. Like if it controlled, he just made you control harder. Now, if you control, he will also lower defense or armor on warjacks. So,
So, do you think this is going to alter his prevalence, though? I mean, in a significant fashion? Because the way it's always been talked about, I mean, consistently, being the most newish one here, I'll point out that it's consistently talked about like he is a big deal that just should be shoehorned into wherever you can possibly put him.
If you
he's
can,
default going to be in one of your lists. Do you think it's still going to be that way, or do you think
you
this is going to
have
be
the
something better?
ability to take Gorman, you should probably find 2 points for him. It's probably going to go away. But he's still, instead of being like a 10 on the auto-include chart, he's probably going to be like an 8.
like now you can, when there are lists in Cador or Signar or Crix that had 2 points left over, before you just went, oh, there's 2 points left, Gorman, because it makes the list instantly better.
Yeah.
Now you have 2 points left over, maybe Manhunter or Widowmaker Marksman or
Cal.
or 2 of the new Soul Gobble dudes. I can't remember their names. Soul Collector guys.
Harlan
like-
Hirsch,
I like Soul Gobble dudes.
Dougal.
Yeah. Like there are other kind of generalist guys now that you can put in that 2 slot that don't automatically get ousted by Gorman that just can't compare to him.
Right.
So that's considerable, actually. That brings up the idea of, I mean, let's not delve too deep into it, but the concept of his value potentially dropping a little bit has in a way, increase the potential use of a lot of other models.
It's
I
effectively
really
buff.
don't think his value has dropped any, because forcing someone to use focus is really powerful.
It is, but at the same time, against a Hordes faction, it's way less impactful.
Right. Against hordes, even still, against hordes, it can
A
be...
lot of the War Beasts have higher defense than Jax, so the Black Oil is a lot more important. And then
And-
Rust Bomb will actually be used as opposed to never, ever being used. I think we're all in agreement it's a good change.
Yeah, if anybody out there actually has any saying that it's not a good change, like they think like this is bad, shouldn't have happened, I'm curious. Like
It's going to remove a lot of negative play experiences, and it's going to increase active thinking in the game. You can no longer just like, what do you do in this situation? Oh, just use Black Oil and then see what happens next turn. It's like, it's going to get people thinking. It's like, well, do I need to use Rust Bomb? Do I need to keep using Smoke? Do I actually want to throw a Corrosion Bomb to try and kill some infantry? I don't think anyone has talked enough about how the third model that was affected by this errata, and I really don't think it was a fair change. Because, I mean, Morgul obviously needed to be taken down a notch. Gorman needed to be brought down. But do we really need to nerf Harbinger? She's
Shut
the
up.
only model that's immune to blind that obviously affects her.
That's a direct correlation.
It is! There's
What-
3 models in the game that are affected by the blind rule.
Shut up. What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, to be fair, he ignores her feet, so he can run up and just do
Black Oil the
nothing
bitch.
to her.
That's true.
Oh yeah, because now she has -4 defense. Shit's gonna go down. Immune to blind.
Parker, what do you think?
You know the interesting thing is that -4 mat doesn't affect her at all. So
That's true.
it's like
Or Rack.
it's
Well, I
like
think about what? The fact that,
Harbinger.
Well, she's immune to blind, so she never took the -4 Rack.
right.
It would prevent her from casting Cataclysm, though. And
Oh,
Fear
yeah,
of God.
That's true.
With Harbinger, you usually use the corrosion bomb because it causes corrosion also, and that actually is a deal for her because people then go, oh shit, if I don't roll a 1 or a 2 and I sacrifice a bunch of health to keep my dudes alive, then you're actually trickling her off is totally viable strategy. So,
I think you missed the thing where we said she's immune to blind.
but no, I'm talking about now
Right.
you just throw the corrosion bomb on her. Like she's not immune to Gorman. Like corrosion bomb
Right.
was actually always a really strong idea for her. Actually, you're right.
Yeah,
she is. immune to
this
blind.
is okay. Now, so Gorman got taken down realistically, not too. He didn't. I say taken down is probably the wrong phrase. I think
He was corrected.
the ability was
I
normalized.
think he went from an 11 to a 10.
I like to think of it as like Gorman was the dude in the back going ooh 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 with his hand up, and you're like, hey man, just you can chill. And he,
Yes,
like,
Take
lowers
it down a notch.
and he just lowers it down to just like a 40, nice
Yes.
90-degree angle. He's
That
still got his
dude.
hand up. You still notice him, but it's like he's comfortable.
That's an interesting perspective.
Now, are we going to point out the fact that realistically, a nerf specifically to Black Oil could be considered racist in the game?
I don't know where does the oil come
To be
from.
fair, he does wear a mask, so we don't know.
Ooh.
We don't know.
All right. So the other effect that can now be shaken is,
Shadow Mind.
which
Thank
is
God.
I believe also 2 models in the game?
for those of you all who don't play Black people. Who is this?
No,
this is
it's
the Denny 2 of Black Peoples.
it's Denny 2 feet,
Bale?
No, the Siren, Warwitch Siren.
War Siren, and
Denny
crit
one,
on
Sakai.
That's right,
Stygian
crit on
Abyss.
the Naga. Oh, and Stygian Abyss. There's 4 ways to get
Isn't that
Shadow
what Bale
Uh-huh.
has?
Doesn't Denny
Is
want
Bale
to
Oh,
attack
Bale
that?
does as well. Is it the Naga that has Shadow Mind, or does he have Blind? I think it's Shadow Mind. We'll check in a second. So anyway, obviously the most impactful is Denny 2's feet,
That's going to be the biggest one.
which is a 14-inch control area.
Which, okay,
access to
would you
Shadow
say
Mind.
that's honestly in response to the prevalence of Body and Soul? Because Body and Soul...
It's definitely a direct
Yeah.
hit to Body and Soul.
But do you think that was actually an intention thing? I know it's difficult to talk
Yes.
about intentions, but...
It's
Absolutely.
absolutely to try and bring down Body and Soul.
Which is very strange to me that they would create something that they immediately go like, oh shit, and they just,
The Naga's bite is crit Shadow Mind.
Frankenstein did it, Parker, so, I could understand how lots of people could do it. They created a fucking monster.
I think the whole point of the errata was just to remove some of the aspects that just slow the game down.
I think it was to remove the auto lose from
Yeah.
scenario play.
There was like a 90% win rate for Denny on any kill box scenario, pretty much.
It got to the point where,
Yeah.
not necessarily the slowdown thing, but like the thing, any game where you can just tell your opponent you don't get to play anymore,
Right.
or significantly lessen what they're able to do in the game to the point where they aren't realistically able to play the game, you are marginalizing half the people playing the game by saying, okay, well, one opponent in every game can't play.
Right.
That's 50% of your audience, and you're trying to sell the game.
Mm-hmm.
If you tell somebody, okay, thanks for buying all these models, you don't get to play with them, though, despite painting them up, putting them together, bringing them to a tournament, gathering with friends, talking about it, making ideas for lists, putting it on the table, and then you don't get to play. It's demoralizing for the community, and I don't care what people say it's good or bad, it's able to play against. Maybe you should be good enough to play against whatever. But when you tell somebody they can't play the game, there's no point in playing the game.
Yes, exactly. I think their goal right now is to get more new players into the game, which is why they started giving away the rules for free. And
Well, that makes so much sense, too. I think that promotes the community, too, because now people actually have no excuse to not know the rules.
Not to mention they were basically in War Room. Shadowbind shakeable and stuff.
Thing is, like, I'm gonna tell you from, like, not having played a billion games against anything with Shadowbind, whenever it did come up, you're like, holy fuck. Like, you just didn't. It was unfun. Denny 2, boring as fuck anyway.
The concept of, like, you've got a 10-point Jax or a beast sitting there. Like let's say a Sight or a Carnibean. Perfect example. 11-point beast. Defense 11. Warwitch Siren walks up and hits you on a 6. You basically lose the game. Because you have an 11-point beast that can't do anything but stand there and get shadowbound for the rest of the game until...
Well, I mean, that's what happened with my game against Crump.
Right, so Crump was putting refuge on Bale, who was running in and shadowbinding 2 heavies, and then refuging away immune to free strikes.
Which is what? Basically...
12 points for 3 points?
No, it's probably 14 points.
Because it was a Mangler and a Nomad?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's 14 points for 3 points. And then the Naga has crit shadowbind. Any effective shadowbind, when it actually hits, like Stygian Abyss, just changes the outcome of the game. Because the models that it matters on are so important that you cannot allow them to not move. Like, losing a piece for a turn, like a 10-point model or 11 or 12, even 14 points for 2 models, that's putting you to the point where that is a third of your list, basically.
Yep. Okay, so good change, bad change. Parker?
To Denny?
Yeah, you're playing Crix. I mean, I understand that it's a downside, but does it make it to where she's not playable? Does it make it to where she's obviously not as viable? Like, what?
It just means you'll have to make more of a meta choice. Before she was you were playing an army, I guess I'll play any Denny. It didn't really matter what they were choosing.
You brought points. That's
Yeah.
interesting. I also
brought negative points.
Yeah.
Like,
so
great.
Denny now, as soon as I heard that, I was like, okay, now she's going to, do a really good job, and her feat is going to be, exactly as strong as it was before. Now, if they only have 1 or 2 jacks. So against like Cador, she's still going to just screw them right in the pooch. I mean, it's just going to be a hard, rough
in terms of
effort.
Warmachine, I don't see it being...
It's still very crippling, the Warmachine.
Right.
The Warmachine side is still screwed because if you take a low number of jacks, you can only shake on a couple models. If you take a high number of jacks, you can't afford to shake them all.
Yeah.
So it's the catch-22 as opposed to Hordes can kind of do both.
This is actually something I was actually interested in. Is there a couple of Warmachine answers that are supposed to be answers to doing that kind of thing where you have to shake with a lot of things? Jumpstart, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
It just doesn't work.
Like why? Yeah, I thought that was interesting that they didn't errata Jumpstart. It was the only thing I was expecting them to errata with those two. If there was one actual thing that I didn't like about the errata to Blind and Shadowbind, is because I went, okay, so Warmachine is still ruined by this because either you play a lot of infantry and you're getting to do your thing anyway, or you're playing a lot of Warjacks and you're getting to do your thing anyway. So, like, Jumpstart was supposed to be an answer to that thing. It's supposed to be a way to say, okay, yes, you froze all my jacks, but you didn't kill me, so now Jumpstart. Or yes, you knocked down all my jacks, but now, you didn't kill my caster, now Jumpstart. But now, you blinded all my stuff, then I do lose, you're right. Or you shadowbound all my stuff, I do get nothing this turn, you're right. The only thing it does do, again, for Warmachine, is if you need to win the whole game with those 2 models, now you can actually maybe spend 2 focus to get those 2 models to activate and win. For example, like Denny versus someone like think of it like a Jackcaster that does assassinations. More than ever, sort of. Yeah. Like, more than ever, sort of. But Denny's not alive, so you're not going to get all your stuff, but her stats are low enough that you might just win that way. So, like, now you might be able to unfreeze 2 jacks to get your overrun on the other jack you unfroze to get to Denny and win. Also, it does not allow Denny to play as aggressively as she did before, because, before she could do crazy things like go in, swing her spear, teleport you back, and then pop your feet and be totally safe. Now, if she does it, your caster teleports you back and pops her feet, she's not totally safe. Your caster might be able to walk up and spell sling or do something else dangerous. So there's lots of caster on caster. Denny has to be careful now, unless she's camping all of her focus and maybe has a defensive buff or stating Incorporeal didn't attack. As a Crix player, like playing Denny, the debuff to her didn't affect most of her game that she already had, just some of her game. So now she's a meta choice when you're list pairing, not just, oh, you're playing anything that might, and so my feat's going to work on your thing. Now it's, oh, you're playing non-ranged soldiers or melee jacks. I'm still going to ruin you with this feat. So, because melee jacks and melee infantry are still just completely ruined by her feat. So,
I actually wanted to say I didn't think about the jumpstart thing until you just said that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. I had a negative attitude towards this particular errata for a different reason. I felt like it needed to happen, but it needed to happen because of a change that happened because of Privateer Press. Until Body and Soul came out, Denny 2 was accepted as a very powerful caster that was good in certain situations.
yes.
And because of Body and Soul with the point reduction and the just everything you already wanted and made a bad unit good kind of situation, it made her so prevalent, and with the tier, like, multiple tier bonuses in her tier should not have ever been combined. The +1 to go first and starting with a piece and play should have never been on the same tier list.
Mm-hmm.
But because it was, we came up with this situation where Denny 2 was starting to dominate the meta. And the way they fixed that is by nerfing the caster, not by nerfing the tier. So we went from a caster that was so-so but considered strong to a caster that was overly powerful because of the tier list. But instead of nerfing the tier list, we nerfed the caster.
Didn't she get a extension bonus to her deployment?
Drudges get advanced deployment.
Oh, okay.
So
That's right.
the reason that she was considered overpowered was because of a tier list, but instead of nerfing the tier list, they nerfed the caster, which I don't like seeing, because now you're even less likely to see her out of tier, because people are going to look at it and go, well, I need the tier bonuses if I'm going to play her now because she's been nerfed.
But to be fair, they didn't just nerf the caster.
True, they nerfed the effect that the caster was taken for, which I understand.
One of the effects.
But it's like when you nerf stationary. When stationary becomes shakeable, then, Sorcerer 1 goes down in stock heavily. It's the same concept. But I just would have liked to see them say, either we messed up and changed the tier.
Actually, that's one of the things I was going to say, speaking of Sorsha, is for anybody who played back in Black and White box days when Sorsha came out, as one of the very first Khador casters, she has been changed like 3 times, and then including Mark II, and then including stationary changes. Like, she's been changed so many times to try to make her less strong. I think it's very interesting that all of these casters now that have had these blanket sacrifice, action, and movement effects have all been taken down a peg, which we're going to get to another one here in a second. I think it's really interesting that all of them, save P. Krios, has been changed because, in my opinion, I think P. Krios and Knockdown has always been an effect in the game that is playable. Like, you can play around Knockdown. You can do things to help yourself when you're knocked down. And there's lots of characters in the game that can't be knocked down. They did a really good job of making Knockdown an effect that controls and debilitates, but also doesn't demolish your ability to play. Like you were saying earlier, Spence, you're saying like it ruins your ability to play with the person. For some reason, Knockdown's always been this really great effect, really nice balance in the game between debilitation and recuperation. Stationary and then Shadowbind and Blind, all these were added to the games later, and they realized that they were just too far over that continuum from Knockdown. Knockdown was this happy middle, and all these other effects were just too strong. And one by one, they've all been debilitated till now. They're all just kind of shadows of the former selves, and they're becoming more. But I don't know why. I think if there was any like design choice made, and this is going to sound really strange, but if there's any design choice made that I don't like about this, is that they ever made anything except Knockdown, because all these other effects seem to just be stronger than Knockdown every time. So they have to keep removing them and nerfing them and slicing them backwards until they just have something that looks like Knockdown. Why didn't they just have Knockdown? But
here's something about Knockdown that I mean we can't overlook, and something that people just need to recognize. And when we went to that tournament recently, I just saw this is consistently misconstrued by a lot of people, and it's line of sight rules. And I understand for us it's a very simple thing that we understand that when things are knocked down, you can see through them. But most people don't understand that how line of sight works in this game, and it's a very simple thing that we think and you learn. But like that's actually something that nothing else does. Yeah, and all the other ones, Parker, you mentioned, like stationary, all these they all do have a secondary effect which make it more powerful than Knockdown in a way, but Knockdown has that extra little edge that now you're not hiding anything anymore. It only works in some situations, and when it works, it's a huge deal.
But like you just said, but knockdown doesn't automatically sacrifice your model's next action,
Absolutely.
like stationary and shadowbind and blind did.
Shadowbind only makes you sacrifice your movement, so it's basically like being knocked down with the caveat of you must choose to forfeit movement.
Yes, but I still think Shadowbind's a stronger effect, because when you allow your opponent to choose which one they're sacrificing, they then can make strategic choices to allow them to stay in the game. When you remove that choice and you say you can't move, it basically says to that person, I made your choice for you, which is what Spence was saying before. Like, the more you take player choice out of that control effect,
Yes.
like knockdown was a masterful thing they added to this game. All the other similar effects were just not quite masterful. They were just not quite.
I think the main
balance.
issue is there was nothing immune to Shadowbind.
Right. As we're
That's
knocked
true.
down. And that's what I was going to get to.
Yeah.
You were saying that, obviously you want everything to be knocked down.
Yeah.
But that makes anything that's immune to knockdown that much more powerful in the game, because it's basically immune to control effects. But I kind of see it both ways, because as stationary is obviously better than knockdown in a lot of situations, with exception to not blocking line of sight, it is caused by less things and it's ignored by less things.
True.
So it's more of a niche situation. Same with Shadowbind, even more so. Even with Blind, even more so.
I guess
Effects, like Stall, probably as much, if not more so, than Blind.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things that can't be ignored. Like, nothing's immune to Stall. Nothing's immune to one model immune Blind. Nothing's immune to Shadowbind.
And I totally agree with you. And yet, when you give those kind of effects on one character to a player base, guess what? The player base goes, well, fuck, I'm going to play that one character that removes my opponent's abilities from the game.
Well, sure.
And that's why Sorcia, the two Sorcias are the only consistent place to find stationary in the game. That's why they have been consistently watched and nerfed or pseudo-nerfed, and eventually stationary got pseudo-nerfed, so that you could, and that's what I'm saying, is that because you give something that far outside the curve to even one character, now everybody's going to gravitate to that, and you've got a meta problem, which is what you just described with
I don't know that it's a meta problem like stationary. Like, Kador's clearly not tearing up the meta or anything, but just saying.
I don't know. In the last tournament, I played against 3 Hador players.
Well, it's because you were in the losing bracket.
And I think that's because one of the reasons why is if they gave P. Sorcia back all the things that P. Sorcia had with her feet and stationary.
Shit.
Exactly, right?
That's not a stationary problem, though. That's a mechanic problem. Like, you just said, let's give this caster the ability to move infinite distance and stationary everything in a huge area.
Oh, no, I'll actually just say, no, let's not do the infinite distance one. Let's just say she gets to Windrush once and then stationary without line of sight. And stationary can't be shaken.
That's 2 big changes.
Sure.
Stationary not being able to be shaken is, I think, bigger than blind not being shakeable.
But that's the 2 things that were done to her to make her not so far out of the meta that it was going to be in the meta.
Well, we're talking about Mark 1 balance things versus...
Yes, but what I'm saying is now these 2 moves are like Mark 1 balance effects. They took 2 things in the game, they put in the game because they thought they were balanced, and it turns out they're not.
But also, when a lot of these effects came in, like Shadowbind, when Shadowbind was written, Steamroller wasn't a thing. It was based around the scenarios in the Mark 1 rulebook when Shadowbind became a thing, which was not nearly as impactful. It was basically stand in your deployment zone and shoot at people. That was how games worked in Mark 1. And they just allowed this to continue to exist until it became a point where it was clearly not good for the game, and then they changed it.
And there will always be casters that inherit, every time they invent a new scenario packet, all of a sudden the caster is going to become really strong.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember, what was it, like it was 2 packets ago? P. Balder was just ridiculous for his ability to control some of those scenarios. Gorton has always been ridiculous at controlling scenarios. At some points he's been stronger, at some points he's been weaker. Like, they're constantly trying to get the packets so that they don't automatically favor some casters, but as long as some casters
Gorton
have...
and Denny to basically dominate scenario design.
I don't know how they could ever sit there and think around all the things they made in this game before they decided they were going to have scenario play. It's really hard to do without completely dismantling some of these casters and the things that they do. And I'm not... just to be clear, I wasn't advocating let's give P. Sorcia all the stuff she had back. I'm just saying that I think all these choices are actually fitting with their mode of changing some of these casters, like P. Sorcia, like E. Denny. I guess the point I'm saying is they'll never have to change P. Krios. No one will ever want them to change P. Krios, as strong as he is and as awesome as his feat is, because knockdown is a balanced effect. I guess that was my point.
Pete Krause is the best caster in Meanoth, so I disagree with that.
No one will ever scream at the mountaintops, nerf Krios. That'll never happen.
It definitely happened at some point, but they just never did. I think people have accepted
Yeah,
it.
I think they need to nerf him by making him focus 10.
Yeah.
They can make him immune to blind. Apparently, that's not very good anymore.
Yeah, that's something.
Hey, focus 10. He is
So-
immune.
The next big hit that happened,
Haley 2 is bad now.
No.
Everyone accept it.
incredibly bad,
If
terrible,
you
not
own the
worth
Haley
playing.
2 model, either
Before
kill
we get
yourself or throw it
into
away.
Go.
before we get into faction specific, let's go with the Beast Pack nerf.
Beast Pack nerf.
Beast Pack
big deal.
nerf?
Yes.
Very big
By
deal.
Beast Pack nerf. Hold on, wait. It's been a while since I read it. Let me try and remember what it was.
God damn it.
It was...
Now you can't kill your own beast pack.
That's right. You cannot reave off of self-inflicted damage.
Yep.
That's right.
Because it wasn't mentioned in the beast pack rules, so it was an assumption that you could. Did I assume that you could kill dudes and get your own
Yeah, did
fury
you,
from them?
when it said follows the rules of War Beast, you took that to mean doesn't work like normal War Beast, right?
Hey, if it's not in the rules, rules is
No
written.
rules, bro. No
Rules
rules,
are written.
bro.
Rules is written.
Who's written, bro?
Screenshotter didn't happen. Screenshotter didn't happen. I think it was a loophole that some the people tried to take advantage of.
I
and
feel
did.
like when people like do shit like that, and they're like, "No, it doesn't say that," and then like you call the judge over, and the judge gives you that. I'm going to give you 3 seconds before I throw you out of this event. Look, he's like, "Just shut the fuck up, and I won't throw you out."
Okay, now off of the useless bullshit that doesn't fucking matter because
Okay, on to important things. Haley 2 is bad. And you
Haley
should-
2 is not
you should
bad.
throw your models away.
She's terrible.
Haley 2 is not bad.
Concede every game you play.
Although-
with her.
Just
Although
just go straight to eBay for $1.
Yeah,
Actually,
$1.
I wouldn't sell her. I think she actually could make a fine toothpick. When you look at her model, she's a perfect toothpick. As somebody who has played her a whole hell of a lot, because Haley in general has always been one of my faves since the days of black and white boxes, I feel like she got changed into something that people don't hate. Actually, as soon as the Errata happened and the great rejoicing erupted all over the internet, my feeling that I had was relief, because I was like, oh, thank God, I
You
can finally
play her
play
in casual games now.
Yeah, I can finally play her against friends because people now think she's bad. So when I win and just crush you with her, because she's still really strong, like so strong in my opinion, then still.
She's still incredibly
I
strong.
don't understand the mindset that people are going that
It was a
she's
change
bad.
that clearly needed to happen.
Yes.
She was hands down the best caster in the faction by such a margin that it was not even contested by a single person that has ever
Okay.
played that caster and any other caster
I'm
in
going to
the
go ahead
game.
and pause you real quick here, and I want to just go ahead and take a step back here and not look at the brass tacks of the numbers of stats and away abilities and everything working in the game. I'm going to look at the basic fluff of the different casters in the game, okay? E. Haley is a time mage that controls both time and space.
Okay.
Cray rides a horse. Striker got a sword and some and a horse.
He's got a horse too sometimes.
Nemo's old and got some robot parts. Darius, he's riding around in a big submarine thing, and like seriously, like I'm sorry.
Well, I know you don't like Doctor Who. Is that because it's
Like-
too powerful?
I'm thoroughly shocked by the fact that when they wrote that, they're all like, well, what's the faction up to? It's like, well, I mean, Signar's going through stuff. Like, don't they have the Master of Time and Space?
Okay,
Let's give them 3 of the Master of Time and Space.
Yes.
I'm going to give you a stat, and I want you to tell me why the stat is true.
Oh,
All right,
God.
you ready?
Okay.
Of 29 Signar players going to the WTC, only 25 of them took Haley 2 in their 2-list pair.
Only 25?
Only 25 of the 29. Can you tell me why that's true?
I don't know.
Because 4 of them have teammates that are playing Haley 2, and you can't duplicate casters.
Oh my God. She's just...
Accept it.
She was overpowered, and I hate using terms like that because it's always like a cry of, I can't beat it! I mean, it's not...
Okay, I think
It
we're all
goes
in
back to,
agreement.
like we just said earlier,
We're all in agreement she was not unbeatable. We're all in agreement
Yes.
she was stronger than she needed to be.
Yes.
she took... Well, no, strength aside. I'm okay with strength. Hell, Asphyxia's too strong as fuck. Dude, strong as fuck.
I hate Lich 2 more than I hate Haley 2.
But I'll throw this out there. You still get to play with your fucking models against Lich 2 until he kills them.
Until
okay?
he kills them, yeah.
It's like, but Haley's just like, you don't get to play a game. No, that guy can't do nothing. Those guys can't do nothing. They don't get to move.
Her
It's like,
feat
honestly-
was so strong that she broke the actual rule, which is defensive feats are worse than offensive feats. Because her defensive feat was so strong that it literally broke out of the cannot be better than offensive feats rule.
yeah.
Well, I mean, at least they don't have a little 2-point solo that can increase her control area.
Yeah. Let her whole army activate again. Or, like, blind your entire fucking army.
God, it's just,
I think that it was The thing about Haley, actually, I think that made her really strong after playing her a bunch was, yes, she had these amazing blanket control effects, and she had a few like pinpoint ones like telekinesis, but her biggest thing was she combined that with just the most retarded, stupid bullshit Warjack bond that you could put on a fucking Colossal to turn it into a storm cruise missile. Like,
well, the problem is the storm wall's not strong enough, so it kind of needs arcane shield
it needs
and
plus
2 speed.
4 movement, and additional attack, and extra focus. Things
seemed like
towards it.
Every single time there was an expansion, that expansion went into her list instead of her old stuff too. Like, she just made everything that came out for Signar got better with her. Like, and she made it better. So like there was never a release even for the faction that didn't serve her first. So you were just like, Tempest Blazers, go, oh my god, they're so much better with Haley, go into Haley. Or like, Jonas Murdoch, oh cool, and now we can make Nis impossible, go into Haley.
So
like,
kind of what you're saying is not that she was a problem currently in the game, but she was a design problem. Because you can't make anything good for Signar that doesn't make Haley 2 broken.
Exactly. Like
you cannot fix their faction.
That's actually a good point.
You cannot save their faction without killing their hero.
Let's clarify something real quick before we go further, because we have not actually said what the fuck they changed.
You no longer choose order of activation. But as I understand, they still, everything in her control area still activates in the control phase. Is that correct?
No, that was part of the second
That's part of the sentence?
Yeah, so
the only thing is they have to give up either movement or action.
No, they did say now that things under her feet must activate before things out of her feet.
Right, that's what I thought.
So you can you can still dictate which parts of their army activate.
That's so much better.
I believe that's the second sentence.
So this is the current wording. During your opponent's next activation phase, enemy models / units activating while in Haley's control area forfeit the movement or action during their activations as their controller chooses. That is what her feet now says.
So you don't have to. You can
unless
activate
they've errated it again.
Any order you want.
Yes.
I'm telling you, that's okay. It's similar to Knockdown. It's so much better now. It's so much stronger.
It's unshakable. It's forfeit move or action. You can't really call it Knockdown because there's so many things that come with Knockdown. But yes, it's like you couldn't shake something.
And also, it still allows you, like, if you want to be crafty, you can still stick E-Lilith out of the feet. But now, as a player, if I'm playing E-Lilith, I can say, okay, if I put E-Lilith in such and such a way with my beasts, now she can't get my beast and E-Lilith. Like, I'm going to get my activation of my feet and all that. So like, yeah.
He's saying that because the way it's worded in the errata, as opposed to what it says in War Room, that because the third sentence of her feat says models in her control area activate in the control phase.
Okay, so
the fourth sentence would say, and you choose the order in which those models activate.
Gotcha. So what we're saying is we still we understand.
He's saying I'm not aware of this, but it might be true. Anything in her control area must activate before things outside of her control area because that's how it worked before. And they simply said you don't have to pick anymore.
Side note, everybody, before you go into any games, look that up. That's going to be a big deal.
Interesting. Yeah, that's weird.
That will matter.
Because if that's how it's written in War Room, that's how it's. Check your errata. Everybody, if somebody has Haley 2 sitting around them and they're playing a game, just find out. Do not sit down at a table against that bitch without knowing that beforehand.
Because this says here, because the errata just says remove the second sentence.
Yeah.
And then on War Room, they actually did more than that.
Do you have the original wording in front of you?
Let me get it.
Was there a comma in that sentence that just made it?
Yeah, that second sentence was like pretty much a paragraph.
So it's like that's going to be one of the coolest things. Now the thing is,
this is definitely one sentence here. So if it says second sentence, unless they rewrote this,
not make her unplayable at all.
Either way, if it's the things in the bubble activate first and then things outside the bubble activate, or if everything activates wherever you want, it still doesn't matter. She's still an incredibly strong caster if you just took her spell card and not the feat portion.
Mm-hmm. She's somebody whose feat was strong, but it did not make her the best caster in the game. She's somebody who is she's solid across the board. She's incredibly powerful, incredibly strong. And actually, the good thing is, I honestly don't think I'd hate playing against her anymore. Because, I just really wouldn't.
You no longer have the feeling of you don't have control of your turn.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Do you have the original wording, Parker?
Here's the original wording, yeah. The original wording is, during your opponent's next activation phase, enemy models units activating while in Haley's control area forfeit either their movement or action during their activations as their controller chooses, which is what exactly reads now on War Room.
Mm-hmm.
The second sentence says, the one they said they took off, is affected models and units activate at the start of their controller's next activation phase, in the order you choose, meaning you being the player controlling Haley. Temporal shift lasts for 1 round. So
That's also the sentence containing the thing that says they activate first.
right.
So
So
that would
maybe
remove both.
That makes it so much better. And
The reason why the activate first thing was effective models units activate at the start of their controller's next activation phase. Oh, that's right, at the start. So that's been removed. Okay, so you're right. What my interpretation of it was incorrect, and you still once you touch them, they get to decide their whole army. They decide everything. Okay, cool. I like that more.
A lot of people will say that she's weak against shooting casters or shooting the lists, but she still has the best buff in the game versus shooting lists, which is deceleration, which is unbelievably strong in some situations.
Plus, she still has the ability to clone a spell.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, every single time they've given something to Signar, it's been defense 15. And so you're like, oh, now it's defense 17 with her list?
Yeah.
Well, then I guess it's stronger with Haley. And you're like, well, you could put him with another caster and give them armor 11. You're like,
now
no.
It's a fight. Now it's
You're
a
like,
fight.
no,
You can actually play against her.
And she's always had Deadeye. I guess I'm just going back to the original thing I said, that she always had the spell list to make her spell list and the amount of focus and the Warjack bond. Every single time they've ever released something for Signar, it was the best with her. Now, it's still that way, except you also don't get the benefit of this completely overwhelming feat. Yes. In my opinion, she's still tier 1 for Signar because of her ability to misuse everything Signar has, but now she doesn't remove your opponent from the game as horribly. Actually, somebody did say, I'm going to pick up E. Haley now that her feat is easier to use. I was like, yes, you don't need to know everything about your opponent in order to play E. Haley, which is what you kind of needed to do before to use her profile. So she may be a little bit easier for beginning players to use, going back to that idea that we want to make the game more accessible. She was actually, I always told people who wanted to get into Signar and was like, I heard E. Haley's good. I was like, for the love of God, do not play her until you've played like 30 games, because she is not a friendly caster. Now,
she's easy to make game-ending mistakes with.
But now she's actually a little more friendly. Yes, you can start playing her a little bit earlier now, which is another reason why it's better. She's still a control caster that's incredible, but played better. She gets stronger as player skill gets stronger. She exponentially multiplies player skill.
I think she's one of the few casters that has practically no skill ceiling. Okay, so this was the question I want to ask you guys. After feat, can you name a Signar caster better than Haley 2? Or after Errata, sorry.
After the
Post Errata, is she still the strongest in Signar?
This is a great question.
So our options are
Haley
Siege,
1's really strong.
Haley 1, Kane 2.
Siege's feat is powerful, but
Siege's feat is powerful.
The problem I have with it is it's still not as powerful as Haley's.
It's a purely offensive.
It's just when you attack a model once,
right? It does.
You get the advantage, and then after that,
right.
Haley 1.
Haley 1, I don't know if she's stronger because she still has the same problems Haley 2 has.
The problem with Haley 1 is if you play Haley 1, quote unquote, like she's supposed to be played, quote unquote, you're playing a 3-focus caster. Like that's her great balancing act. Yeah. That's the same reason why P. de Negra is not the strongest caster in the game automatically, even though she's amazing, is because she can't do all the things she wants simultaneously. If she could, then she'd be broken as shit. Like if you look at P. Haley's list of her spells and her abilities, you're just like, well, she can't be beaten. She has everything in the game she wants, but all of the things, even her fucking vortex costs focus. So you can't do everything simultaneously, which is like her big drawback. The thing that E. Haley has that's so fucking stupid is that she will do everything she wants every turn. She has 9 focus. Like, she'll do everything.
So you think she's still the best?
Yes. For that reason and that reason alone, that she can do everything she wants. The only one, in my opinion, that actually comes closer, like just pound for pound, spell list, not thinking about sometimes their lists and things that happen, is actually, in my opinion, E. Striker. And the only reason why E. Striker is E. Striker can one-turn the game. Like, E. Striker can actually say, okay, well, you killed my whole army, I guess I'll just man up right now, and with one model that I have left, kill you. And for that reason, he gets close, because he can actually do that, and no other Signar caster can. But
I think Kane 2 is pretty close to doing that as well.
That dude 2 is better at assassinating than Kane. But Kane 2 is better at helping his army during the game.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, E-Kane stays alive a little bit longer. E-Kane is really strong. But the problem with E-Kane is if they have armor 21 with a couple focus, or they're behind a cover, they literally just smile and laugh at Kane. Like, he can't do it.
Yeah, you put a average stat caster behind cover and he just can't do anything.
All right. Yeah. So, as this has not affected the WTC list selection,
but is affecting the play of the WTC.
But is affecting the play. Do you think if they would have allowed changes, that people would have dropped Haley?
No.
I don't think anybody does drop
The
Haley.
amount of practice they've put in at this point, not to mention play experience over the last several years, I don't think it really would have changed anything.
Huh.
More importantly, I think it was a bad choice for them to...
Explain this.
Because the errata dropped after lists were locked for WTC, but before the event happened. And they decided to apply the errata to the games, but not let people change their lists.
So people have already committed to certain lists they're going to play in this very strong, big world event. They've already committed to what casters are going to play and what they're going to bring.
Mm-hmm.
And then this errata hits, and they're like, and people now have to play with lists after the errata has been struck. Yeah. And this is going back and forth. People are deciding whether or not that's fair or not fair. Okay, not okay.
I don't think it's anything in this errata is game breaking enough that you would change a list.
I don't think it's game breaking. I think this. Privateer Press, I'm just going to go ahead and clap. This is amazing. Like what you all have done. This is not a game breaking thing. It's not world shattering or anything. But this is a balancing act. And like I said, when it comes to a market point of view, we can talk about trying to get newer players in the game. But take that away, okay? The median level players out there, the casual players, people who play the game, Parker said it a moment ago. How annoying is it whenever you want to put down, your top level A+ caster? Parker, I know you play Crix, you play Signar, you play these casters, and you put them on the table, and the enemy looks at the cross table and like they glaze over and they don't care anymore. That's not fun.
Yeah.
It takes the game away from people who aren't on that top echelon of play who want that kind of competition. And now you can play with that. It's more exciting. It allows people to play the game. It's good for the game.
It is good for the community as a whole. I absolutely agree. As far as the WTC specifically, they should have not included the errata. I'm kind of glad they did because now we get to see the win percentages and everything of these lists like Body and Soul, Haley 2, all the Gormans. We get to see all these things happen in a unchanged meta. Because the meta cannot adapt to these changes,
That's actually interesting.
but must play with the changes.
It's going to be interesting.
That's why I want to see if if you see a noticeable drop from last year's Haley 2 performance, but if there's no change or she does just as good, if not better, but we'll see. I mean, what if she bombs? Then we'll all look like a bunch of fucking retards.
That's nothing new for us.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the level of play these guys are going to be performing at, they know E. Haley so well. Everybody does. Even the guys who are practicing with her to get ready for this, or their opponents. Like, you've played against E. Haley so many times once you've reached this level of competitive play. There's no way this errata is going to be the big difference. You've already decided how you're beating E. Haley or how you're losing to E. Haley.
At the same time, aren't those games already so close? They're coin flips anyway, so any change in the math can dramatically offset the balance.
Is that true?
Maybe.
I think so. I've played against Max playing Lich 2 against my Sorcerer 2 so many times that usually I know how the game's going to end. It's going to be I'm losing on attrition, and I try to assassinate him. And I know what my percentage chance of doing that is. But if all of a sudden a small thing in Lich's kit got changed, now maybe I don't have to go for the assassination. Now maybe I'm slightly ahead on attrition. Any small change can dramatically affect it when you're playing at the most high level of skill with both players being very evenly matched. Those changes make a difference.
I am with Brandon. This is going back to E. Haley and all these changes at the Worlds. This is maybe the only World Championship tournament I actually care about. I
love the WTC, but
no, I mean I enjoy hearing about it and listen to the guys after they get back and that kind of stuff. But this will maybe the only one I'm interested to follow.
It's going to be streamed really well this year.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get to see a lot of that.
I want to watch every one of those matches.
Will it actually be streamed well this time? Because I've never been able to find it very easily.
The guys that are doing it they have access to Chain Attack's stream. I think
they're doing it instead of the Chain Attack equipment going over. It's all the stuff.
I know it's their equipment, but they're going to be doing it on Chain Attack's Twitch.
That's possible. I don't know that.
Yeah.
Is that sort of thing? Would they have an issue with everybody just having copies of those games and videos and just posting them up everywhere? Because that should be done with everyone. Everyone should see these.
Well, I mean, everyone can see them if you go to theirs. You just only want to go to our site.
Yes. I bought a TV just to do that. You know that, right?
What else to talk about at Signar?
We still got Haley 3.
So instead of just being a straight buff in the errata was actually a lateral change, as well as I think the pistol race was a lateral change. So Haley 3, people were confused when she first came out because technically in the rules, the only way you're within range of yourself is if it's a commander control range. If you're within range 5 of yourself, doesn't exist. You are never within a distance of yourself unless that distance is commander control range. So if it says models within 3 of this model does not include itself, but models
Okay.
within command of this model includes itself.
Okay.
So the change that was made was instead of it being models within 5, it's this unit and models within 5 of this unit gain this bonus.
He's talking about the spell
Temporal flux.
Okay.
Correct. They also added the caveat of must be faction, as
Okay.
where before Nis Hunters, Alexia 2.
So this is not that big a deal, and Parker is absolutely correct.
No, it actually is kind of a big deal because there were some, like Nis being base defense 17 is kind of a big deal. Alexia 2 being a 17-19 with 10 hit points is a big deal.
So the faction thing. Is what you're
Acosta
talking
being a 17-17 immune to knockdown with evasive is a big deal. Like,
Yes.
those things were
about.
important.
By the way,
changes.
can we all just agree that Acosta's fucking awesome?
Okay, so yes, there are some Merc solos that could abuse it, sort of. But, okay, now I have to pay 2 points for an amazing attachment to make my Nis.
But it doesn't.
Like, amazing.
It no
Anyway.
longer will let you take the solos, like the Alexia 2 and the Acosta and anyone else who's high base defense.
Yeah.
I understand. I absolutely agree.
Oh.
It should have been faction only. I absolutely
Yeah.
agree. But that's the situation that people are complaining about.
I am of the mind that when you read something, you go, well, look what they're trying to fucking do. They weren't
Mhm.
trying to let you break this shit. They were trying to make something fun. Like, can you please just let them make something fun? Why are you trying to break this? I know you're
Which
a gamer
actually-
and you feel the compulsion to make sure that you break this rule.
Things in the game that got nerfed were so far out of the normal power band that they were
Yes.
clearly outliers. So we brought them back into normal areas. Now people will have less things to complain about when they would get negative play experiences. Now they won't feel as bad. They will not be discouraged to play the game anymore. We will have more people to play against. And because we have more people to play against, they will eventually become our peers and will encourage us to do better as we are now seeing a new group of people enter the game.
Right. Again, every time you get an extra person into the game, you're increasing the collective intelligence.
Right.
Absolutely.
So no one person, regardless of skill, is ever going to plumb every reach. Like, you're going to have people doing things. Another thing about games that's interesting is that most of the games, at least the games we're talking about, are all competitive enterprises. So you have this motivation built into, like, a puzzle is entirely self-motivated. A competitive game has this other kind of extrinsic motivation that you get for succeeding in competition against another. So you're getting a fuzzy feeling just by winning, whereas a puzzle, you get a completion feeling maybe.
Absolutely.
There's a motivation there that pushes people to find new things and do new things. You'll hear a lot of people say, I don't want to do the thing that my neighbor's doing. Like, I read this thing online, but I want to do something different and interesting, and that's how you get, like, broadening of the game. I think the people who don't like games are the people who are unwilling to share in the collective experience, because if you don't want to share in that collective experience, if you don't want to go find other people, you don't want to go compete, you will stop playing the game. I know of a guy right now who's playing out of a local game store, and he really, really loves Signar. He loves the models that he plays. He is not willing to share in collective experience. He doesn't want to hear about what your idea is. He doesn't want to know what you have to say. He doesn't want to play against you. He wants to beat you with the models he has that he loves. And he told me the other day he's getting out of the game. And I'm just like, well, yeah.
Now, for a long time, I was very against the concept of the net deck or the net list because I came from card games before I got into miniatures games, and I was so annoyed when people would just sit around and look up what the newest, best deck was online and just put it together by buying all the cards individually and play that against you even though they didn't know how to play it because they always felt like they had a huge advantage. And I was just like, you're not being creative at all. So because of that, for the longest time, like, I played no mercenaries with my Khador, and, you know, like, anytime I wanted to play mercenaries, I would just play mercenaries as the faction. I would not add them into other lists. And it definitely, I would say, stunted my growth as a player because I refused to do anything that I heard anyone did because I wanted to do my own thing. And it definitely slows you down.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I always felt more pride in the lists I played. So I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. But if you want to be competitive, like on a national level, and you want to travel to events and
You gotta
do
use all
well,
your tools.
it's not even necessarily you need to do what other people do.
No, you gotta use
You
your
just
tools.
need to understand that there's a reason they're doing it.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a lot of people refuse to admit, which I definitely refused to admit for a long time. There's a reason people are doing that. I'm sure Nis Hunters are really good in Khador. That doesn't mean you have to play this guy's list. Just look at maybe using some of the tools that he takes, because he clearly has a reason for it.
Right, and
Right.
that's why I include the lists on our videos.
Right.
It's because
Right.
I want people to be able to see, well, why did he take this and this?
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully they'll go and look at the cards or
Right.
And
on
also-
the forum and see what combinations they have with each other.
And also, you're going to feel like one of the things that, and again, this is part of that collective experience, through competition and through willingness to play, through willingness to reflect and get feedback after games and things like that, you also broaden your own ability to how you play. For example, I have played so many games and I've been willing to stop and reflect and talk to people that I am now open to the idea that I just can't play fucking Signar.
I understand that because you're really
Like-
bad at Sigmar.
Every time
That
I
makes
love
me feel
Signar,
horrible.
I love Signar, and I played them so much, but I just lose. So if I'm interested in winning, I can't play that faction. And the main reason why is I go ham with my caster. I spend every focus on my caster. I go in, I go deep. Haley has to shoot her fucking hand cannon. She has a fucking hand cannon. She's fucking boosting that shit. I'm killing a solo.
What was your first faction?
My first faction ever in the game.
Yeah.
Like back in the black boxes, it was Striker. It was Signar. And then right after that, I bought Cador, and then
Well,
Cador faction, the Cador mercenary, the Cador collection stayed like 4 models until I bought a huge guys collection here during Mark II, and I really jumped back into it. But
I was gonna say, like, of the majority of your play, let's say your main faction would be
like if you counted up all the games I've ever
every
played,
game you've ever played. What's your most popular faction?
Signar's got to be at least 100% more games than any other faction I played. But that extra 100%, that double, is from Mark One. So, I mean, I played a lot of Mark One Signar. I played only Mark One Signar.
Okay, so we've talked about Shaking Shadowmind, Shaking Blind, Haley 2's feat change. We've also talked about change to War Beast packs.
And Haley 3 spell effects.
So these next ones we're going to run through really quick.
And that Trencher Buster, don't
Trencher
forget.
Buster,
Oh, God, yeah.
And Haley 3 spell effects. So other quick things. Probably
Death Chill.
first we'll talk about, actually. Well, yeah,
Death
we've
Chill.
already hinted at the Death Chill. Let's just cover it. Death Chill on the Pistol Wraith has Chain Attack Death Chill. Upon hitting with the third attack, instead of triggering the Death Chill effect, he now triggers Stationary.
Yeah.
I believe they did this to make it more constant, so majority of effects in the game are shakeable. Yeah, I think they made it stationary because it's supposed to be a cold effect because it's Death Chill. They should have
Well,
changed
wasn't-
it to stay
wasn't
Chain
some-
Attack Stationary. They should have done that.
Wasn't some of the original wording that it was still immunity cold? That they ignored that.
No. Well, I mean, currently it doesn't. It's stationary even if you're immune to cold.
Okay.
Currently.
Fuck you.
Is
Wait,
the
a lot
chill-
of people are complaining about the pistol rate change. I don't think it's a bad change.
No.
Making
I don't-
something stationary, even if it's immune to cold, is a big deal.
I think that Stationary will always be a strong effect, and doing it twice, awesome auto hit and melee and 7 defense or whatever, like that's strong. I really, really don't like its cost now, because the thing, basically, the 3-point cost was always made it a borderline choice for everybody except a few casters. Now, it is really hard to legitimately take that over the other solo options.
I
It's actually-
disagree.
like
I don't think it's any worse than it was.
I think
Because
it's
Death Chill had no negative effect other than control, and Crix is all about killing things. Now it has an actual debuff that makes things easier to kill because stationary, like, if he managed to walk up and stationary an angel, like just hit 3 7s in a row, like you just kill an angel as opposed to probably not killing it, that's more useful than Death Chilling an angel.
I agree, but at the same time, I still now I have 2 of them, and except for E-Scar, where it can actually kill things with its guns regularly, just kill a bunch of things with its guns, I don't see myself ever playing them ever again.
Don't forget that Soul Collectors are now a thing.
Yeah.
You could potentially boost all 3 of your hit rolls.
I guess Soul Collectors may
Which
change
means he has a decent chance of stationary and Kane.
them. I'll actually go back and say I forgot about Soul Collectors actually being a thing once they come out. So
So
Soul
suck
Colle-
it.
Soul
Which
Collectors,
is
you're right.
October, I believe?
I forgot
Sometimes
Soul
soon.
Collectors.
Okay.
When I read Soul Collectors, I went, okay, cool. Denegra 3, and it's the only thing I thought
Right.
about because Denegra 3 was on the page before them or whatever. So it's like I wasn't considering that Pistol Wraiths could now benefit from that. But now you're talking about kind of a 5-point cost Pistol Wraith, kind of. I guess if that wins the game, you won the game with it, so it's worth 5 points.
Well,
But
not even but I mean, the Soul Collectors are what, 1 for 2? Or are they 1 for 1?
I think they're 1 for 1.
So at 1 point,
Yeah.
so you're getting 2 Soul Collectors and a Pistol Wraith. Like, that's a package you could look at, and especially with Denny, because you might want to be just taking them anyway with Denny. So you play Denny 3, you get a couple soul collectors, and look, now I have extra souls. I'll just put some of these souls on a pistol wraith.
Actually, Soul Trapper, I gotta remember their name. It's Soul Trappers, and they are 2 Soul Trappers for 1 point. So there you go. There's actually a value there.
So yeah, so you take, for 7 points, you get 2 pistol wraiths and 2 soul collectors or soul trappers. Or at that point, you probably just take 4 soul trappers and just, because it increases your odds and it's 1 point. But that gives you the option to do it. Like, stationaring a lot of things can be really important. Soul Trappers will actually be the thing, regardless of this errata. Soul Trappers will be a funny thing to hit Crix. I think Crix is going to. I think Soul Trappers will be one of those things that we'll be seeing the skill cap on those guys just keep going up and up and up and up and up as people use them in all kind of weird ways. Right. That was one of the models that I think was one of the best models they've ever put into a faction, because they did exactly what the faction needed, and yet just really opened up wide a bunch of stuff. So it's really interesting. It doesn't make things better; it makes things wider. So maybe pistol wraiths are okay, even though they got quote unquote nerfed. I don't know why they got nerfed. I think it was a better. I think they're actually better than they were. Stationary is an incredibly powerful ability.
Because offensively it works better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like immediately we went to the Killing Girl in Springfield, which was 3 days after the errata came out. There were already people putting double pistol wraiths into Gorshade 2's theme list. Because it's stationaries the decent defense beast, which the Bane struggled against. Because if you stationary Warp Wolf, that Warp Wolf gets fucking murdered by Bane Thralls.
And with Soul Trappers around, you actually have a legitimate chance to hit something really high D.
Well, I mean, obviously they're not out yet, but yeah, potentially when they come out, they'll be even better.
Parker's interested in hitting the high D, okay?
And let's not forget they're also allowed in self-defense.
That's true. Pistol race can be taken in mercenaries.
Game. What's the next
Actually, you've got me.
So you went from so down on pistol race and actually just like, I might play my pistol race now.
Jeremy, sell Parker.
The reason is I considered the main reason why I considered taking them in something like E-Scar was E-Scar can struggle against Colossals, because she can keep her Jax alive 1 extra turn against the Colossals if you're planning on feeding on your own stuff. But Pistol Race could give you extra time to wail on the Colossal while you're trying to kill it.
I agree that the hard control effects are obviously really strong against Colossals. I think as a community, we all agree with this errata that that's no longer something we want to be part of the game.
Right.
Hard control effects versus large portions of our army.
We kind of mentioned this for like 2 seconds at the very beginning. Do we think, Colossals are already so prevalent. Do we think Colossals will just be in every list now?
Now, admit it. Are Colossals prevalent, or is the Stormwall and the Earthbreaker prevalent? I think in a 2-list pair before, you saw a lot of Colossals, honestly. And most of the time, it was actually novelty. People go, I want to spin and put down my cool model that I painted. And so that's why you saw them actually a lot more than they were.
That's awesome. That's how it should be.
But how many conquests do we see at tournaments? I see guys running, of course now you can run 3 of them or whatever in this stupid list, but it's...
No, you only see 1 conquest. You see 2 victors.
Okay, sure, fine, whatever. But the point is, you're going to see all the different Colossals because people like them as like a model choice, like an aesthetic kitschy choice, not because they're necessarily strong. You see Stormwall and Earthbreaker because they're strong. In my opinion now, before putting your Stormwall in both lists, putting your Earthbreaker in both lists, well, obviously Earthbreaker in both lists is silly, but putting your Colossal in both of your 2-list pairing was a liability. Because if your opponent was planning on Colossals and had something that really shut down Colossals, they were automatically eliminating 20 points of both of your lists.
Right.
As soon as you put them down. Now, without hard counters, without Gorman and Snipe, Blind Bomb Snipe, without E. Haley and Gorman, without some of these super incredible colossal neuters, without Death Chill to a certain extent, are you going to see everybody being able to put Colossals in every list because they're just automatically stronger than Warjacks? Because they are.
I have a very strong opinion about that question.
Okay, go for it.
Okay.
Before you get onto yours, can I point something out there? You said, can they? Yeah, they can. And you said because they're just better than Warjacks. Points investment-wise, focus allocation-wise, resource allocation-wise, presence on the table-wise, I think that's not necessarily entirely true. I do think they can. I don't think it's always a better choice. But
you can go ahead and immediately prove me wrong. But I think there are 3 casters in Warmachine that would rather that would rather have 3 jacks over 1 colossal. But continue, go.
So of the 7 Warmachine factions, of casters in Retribution, what? One of them wants a Hyperion? One of the 7 or 8?
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to Convergence, they have one of the best colossals in the game. Maybe 2 casters in their entire faction want to take it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now moving on to Mercenaries. Bart runs a good Galleon, and Ostrom runs a good Earthbreaker. So 2 of their 12 casters actually legitimately want to take a colossal.
No. Gorton and, what's his name?
Durgan.
Bust-a-nut Blaster.
It doesn't matter because it's still one of their lists.
What I'm saying is all 3 dwarfs would rather spend.
But Ostrom
points
is the
on.
best with it.
I would say he's a slight winner, yes.
So Ostrom is the best of the Rulix, and the Rulix, I played all 3 of them without Thor. It's not good without Thor.
That's why I said earlier that you play 1 Earthbreaker in one of your lists.
So you play
Except for Mangle Metal.
So you play Earthbreaker in one of your lists. Bart is a good Galleon, but you're not going to take double Colossal because you don't not take double Colossal because one of your opponent's list has control effect. You take it because they can just kill it. So that's brings us down to the original 4 now. Of Khador casters, probably 2 of them want to actually take a Conquest or a Victor, either one. It's Sorsha 2 or Harkovich is pretty much the casters that want to take Colossals. Menoth is basically Fiora 2 because her bond is stupid with Adjudicator, or maybe Sevi. 2 casters of 15 that want to take Adjudicator.
I think P. Krios also has a really valid point to it, but continue.
I agree. I've played that list a lot. I think it's better without, but it's not by a huge margin. It's a playable list. Moving on to Tricks. The Kraken is wanted to be played with basically Gorshade 3, maybe Scar 1, and that's occasionally. So 2 of 15 casters again wants to actually take that Colossal. And then moving on to Signar, which is like 10 of 15 casters want to take the Stormwall.
Okay, so
But
I guess
I'm not saying Stormwall is super overpowered. I'm just saying that these are the lists I see as optimal choices for these things. If you wanted to play basically the same list because it's built around the same 30-point core of the list, because when you take a 20-point model in your list, you have to take support models for it. Like in Signar, you're taking a Junior, you're taking a Squire. Like the same 30-point core of the list is going to take place in both of the lists.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy for your opponent to have a good matchup versus that 30 of your 50 points, and you to lose that matchup because your lists are so similar. I don't think that Colossals are going to be coming gangbusters into the meta any more than they already are. I see them as tools, but at the same time, you wouldn't use a hammer to dig a hole. Like, you use it for what it's used for, and then you need to bring a tool bag of tools. You can't just bring one item and expect to win.
I do see your point. I was definitely coming at this from somebody who constantly builds Signar lists and looking at it going, one of the problems with building Signar that I've had, and I've talked to you about this, is I try to find a list that doesn't want the Stormwall first.
No, I complained about that when my friend was trying to get into Signar, and I was like, I don't understand why the first 41 points of your list is not like Blazers, Gun Mages, Stormwall, Junior, Squire, and like Eris. Like, that was like the 41 points or something like that. I was like, why is this not your fucking list?
Right, that makes you feel like you have to play Constance Blaze in order to not play the Stormwall, and even then it's maybe okay with her. So I feel like maybe I'm just coming at it from the perspective of playing factions that gravitate towards their Colossal so much. Khador and Grix not including. But if you're choosing to play those casters, and you're trying to play 2 of them, then yeah, you're going to get 2 Colossals. This is the one thing I will say is, as a person who's playing 4 Colossals, like I have to, when I'm building my list pair and I'm going, how am I going to beat a Colossal? Like, kind of like you said, if your opponent has a list that clobbers and kills the Colossal, yes, but one of the things I think is interesting is I could no longer spend 2 points and imagine that Colossal is just going to go away.
Right.
Like, because before, that's what I could do. I could go, I'm going to build a list that's really, really good against this game, and I'll put 2 points in my list that also ruins Colossals. That was something I could do before.
Parker and Brandon, walk me through this idea, okay? You're a prevalent Signar player, so that's where, the vast majority of your thought is coming from Rushnag. Now, on the other side of it, maybe when you're coming up against Colossals, obviously you have the control aspect, which lets you kind of deal with them. But when it comes to actually destroying them, like we're talking about, like Brandon says, you just Colossal just gets removed off the table inconsequentially sometimes. It can happen.
Yeah, you just push your Fury Conquest into it and it goes away.
So what winds up happening is, I have never in my life imagined a Colossal being something that's all you have to do is get to it and it gets off the table. That's in my head. Every time I've ever seen my enemy's Colossal, I'm like, if I can get to it, it gets off the table. And if it's all the way over there, it's not doing anything. So that's always my thought on it, not the control aspect of it. You play a faction, however, I mean, does Signar have a problem, like, not controlling, but destroying and removing the enemy Colossal from the table? Is that a thing that they typically...
If you don't have a storm wall, yes, that can be a problem.
Yeah, you've got a serious issue if they have a Colossal and
so
you don't.
maybe that's the perspective.
Well, that's Signar's built-in weaknesses armor cracking.
Right.
That's their faction-defining negative is they don't break armor. Like, that's
right.
the only negative that faction has.
And it's one of the reasons why the Stormwall becomes so auto-include, because it's the only POW 20 they got.
Yeah,
like,
base POW 20 attacks with reach.
They can, and just recently they got a buff to strength on the 3 dudes they have that swing hammers and swords. Like, they don't, I guess no hammers. I guess they do have a hammer dudes, but you can't cast a spell on them. So it's like, you don't, like, they're so hamstrung for doing high amounts of damage that they needed
That's
a
why
storm wall.
Haley was okay for so long, because her army included POW 10 guns and a Stormclad. That's why she was okay for so long. But now that she has a model that can move 37 fucking inches or whatever it is, and has 2 base POW 20s and can buy 7 more attacks, it's a fucking problem.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons. And so yes, coming from a faction that struggles against armor and can't trivially remove a Colossal, basically I played my Signar going, I had an anti-Colossal list. It was the list that had Gorman in it. Because that list was usually my snipe list, and so I just sniped Gorman. He could throw the bomb because there was no Colossal in the game that could stop me from killing him before I got my snipe bomb off. And I sniped Deadeye bomb him or something, and then that Colossal's done for the rest of the game. I will be able to cycle snipe to something else, and Gorman will move forward 6 inches next turn and bomb it again and again and again and again. The game's over before
Are you
the
counting Anastasia?
Yeah,
you can rust bomb and black oil it?
Yep.
Okay, so we've bunny trailed pretty heavily over on this.
Yeah.
What's the other piece of the errata that we need to consider?
Okay, so we talked about, did we get there from Pistol Wraith? Is that really what
Yes.
happened?
Yep.
Oh my god. Alright,
Yep.
so moving on.
Yeah.
The Archangel, his Animus was changed from the worst Animus in the game to an okay Animus, which is enemy models currently within 2 inches of this model gain the fire continuous effect.
Which now you're going to see the massive prevalence of all those Legion players who bought that beautiful fucking, like, what I said bought. Wonderful, gorgeous, like, beautiful dragon statue that looks all amazing, and it's not going to suck so hard on the table.
The Archangel is so cool. It's so cool.
Just shut up. It's not even the coolest model in the range. Moving on to the coolest model in the range. The Mountain King has gained Assault. Awesome.
Yep.
I actually think this is a big change. Okay, let's all just take a second. This is the largest buff they've ever given to a model.
Yes.
That's true.
That no model has ever gained a rule as important as Assault.
Yes.
Riot's
Absolutely
gaining
true.
reach was nowhere near as huge as the Mountain King getting Assault.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Do we feel like this is actually something that's going to be a thing? Like, I mean, is it...
I think you'll see more Mountain Kings, but as soon as the Glacial King comes out, they'll be completely removed.
I think you'll see as more Mountain Kings as you do Archangels. I don't see Assault making the thing now that makes players want the Mountain King.
No, I'm not comparing. I'm saying the Glacial King. I don't think... Yeah, you probably still won't see Archangels.
What I'm saying is I think you'll see as many Archangels as you do Mountain Kings. You know what I'm
I
saying?
disagree. I think you'll see more Mountain Kings until the Glacial King comes out. Then you'll see neither of either.
But nobody... The Assault does not make the Mountain King. It makes it better, yes.
It makes it noticeably better.
It doesn't even polish the turd. It bronzes the turd. But it's still a turd. Like, it's not...
The problem with the Mountain King was simply that it could not kill enough models. But now with Assault, I think it can.
The problem with the Mountain King is the same problem that all Gargantuans have. Having 10 Fury is better than having 5. In a faction where all of your beasts always live so easily,
I
too.
don't think that's necessarily a problem for Trolls, though. Because
You're
Trolls have so much Fury already that they have problems getting rid of it. They're
How many casters have a way of...
Well, and
They
only
have, what, 5 or 6 Fury 5 casters?
one of their lists is going to have Mulg and 2 other heavies. The other list is going to have what and a Mountain King.
The big catch-22 with the Mountain King has always been that if you want to actually make it live, you have to spend 35 points to your list. Because you have to take an Earthborn, you have to take the Stone, you have to take Janessa. It's actually like 38 points. 38 points to your list is spoken for when you decide to take a Mountain King. Because all it could do is survive. That was the only thing it did. Because it was not an offensive piece. So it was there to survive till the end of the game in which Mat 5 POW 21 would kill you. That's what it does. So now that it actually does other things, like Gunbjorn with a Mountain King is actually good now. Because 2 spray 10s that are fully boosted to hit at basically no fury expenditure to you is huge. That is a huge space.
Because he has guided
fire.
Kill
He has
shot.
guided fire.
He has guided fire, kill shot, and assault. He's getting 2 sprays and melee attacks. They're all fully boosted to hit. And he can put down a rock wall to protect it, and Janessa can put down a second rock wall to protect it.
Okay, there you go. You Gunbjorn. So Gunbjorn now has Dozer and Smig and him as cool beasts. Cool.
I don't think you'd probably take both, but you absolutely could.
That's my point.
He's got options. Gunbjorn went from the worst caster in the faction to, I think, top 5.
All cool, but the point of what I just said was they already have Dozer and Smig. Like, they already have a great beast for him that he's not going to... maybe you take him, maybe you take Mountain King over them, maybe, but like you said, you also have to spend all those extra points to make sure he doesn't die, because it's too many points on a single beast. It's too much fury lost when they just kill him trivially. And assault with, okay, yes, you can boost with guided fire, but if for any reason that doesn't go like you want it to, it's so many fucking points.
He doesn't come in just willy-nilly into your army. I think with the other things you'll be taking with Gunbjorn, like you're going to take Highwayman, you're going to put Snipe on Highwayman, you'll have Braylon in your list. Like, I don't think you need to take the armor bow with Gunbjorn, because he now is an offensive piece in that list. He is there to kill models. He'll go in and probably kill a unit worth of guys if you actually position him properly. And then when you come in to remove him, the Highwayman will be standing there ready to kill everything that you use to kill him. He already took pieces from you.
I don't think the Mountain King will ever be a bad choice with him. I didn't think the Mountain King was that horrible a choice in a lot of their lists. The problem was always, in hordes, in general, the math is not in their favor as soon as they consolidate their beasts into one place. You are right, Trolls is one of the best factions at that, but I think that Gargantuans will always be a hard sell regardless of what you put on them. The only one I've ever thought of that actually seemed like an okay sell, because I haven't even seen the rest of the rules on it, but was Hydra, yeah. I actually think the Hydra is the only strong sell right now because it does a lot more than other beasts do without spending anything. You are correct.
Are you saying that from a points cost wise?
No, from a war beast generating things wise. And that's one of the reasons, like, it's what Brandon is talking about right now, with when you give it assault and it can shoot again with fully boosted attack rolls, you're finally getting enough removed by that single model's activation.
He's saying that the point cost is worth its effectiveness, but when you gotta remember that it's a reverse Warmachine. He needs to generate fury for you. As well, that's why the World Wrath is considered one of the worst Gargantuans, because it's a 20-point ball that generates 4 fury.
And you can't cast spells.
And you can't buff it.
And it's not killing enough. Mm-hmm. It's spending all of its fury and doing all of its things. You're not getting fury back, and you're not killing enough. Like, the fact that you're right, Mountain King with Assault does kill more stuff. With Guided Fire, it kills plenty of stuff. With Kalandra's Feet, if she wants to go that way, you could kill a lot of stuff and maybe not kill it back in return because you get way too many, star-crossed missed attack rolls on it or something. I don't know. What if things got defensive 4 or some shit anyway, but you can increase critical misses maybe. So there are lots of things that you can do in the faction with a slightly better Mountain King, but it will never overcome the problem of not generating enough fury off a single beast.
And Trolls have the option that they have so many other really strong, very popular, fun to play lists that don't involve Mountain King. It's a beautiful model. It's cool and all, but I like the fact that the company has the balls enough to actually switch something up that heavily.
That was a huge change. It's hands down the biggest change they've ever made as a buff.
Maybe they'll make more.
I think it was a good... Oh, sorry. Until we get to the Siege Animatrix.
Yes. Shut up.
It's not good. It went from by far the worst battle engine to arguably one of the best. So, originally, it could only spend rage tokens to boost its tail attack. It couldn't even boost its spear attacks, I think. It could only boost one of its type of melee attacks, I believe. And it could not boost its gun. And it only got rage tokens when it was damaged by an enemy attack. Now it gains range tokens anytime it's damaged, including by friendly attacks. Which means your beast handler's anatomical precision can whip it to give it range tokens. And it can boost its gun now.
Yep.
It has a gun?
It has a gun. It has a really good gun.
It does.
It has a range 12, POW 13 burst gun, so against a larger base, it's POW 15. It's the very first +1 shots.
The very first time I ever played Tom Guan, the very first time I ever shook his hand and met him, he killed my Nemo with a fucking Siege Animatrix.
And then you committed seppuku?
No, this is back when I was playing Signar.
Family?
No, this is about back when I was playing Signar. I was so used to only losing one caster. Only losing one model, my caster. I was like, yep, that's what happens. Do. Pick up my one Signar model that died and move on.
I really, really enjoy the fact that they made that model worthwhile. I do.
You should buy 2 of them.
I will.
And then play them with Xerxes with 2 manas.
I like guys that stride in the middle of combat and just do things all around them, kind of fighters. I think it's really cool. I think it's a really good buff.
It's a significant buff. It's a
huge change.
Very significant buff.
And it works with the faction. It continues to be fluffy. It's a giant beast that we literally stick needles in its ass and it gets madder. And
Fluff-wise, it makes a lot more sense, yeah.
And even though we're riding on top of it, we're also madder.
And freaking the fuck out.
We're so mad. Our beast is so mad. Let's throw spears harder.
So, we've talked about this now. Did scoring go up or down with the changes? Because Morgul 2 got nerfed, but the Siege Animatrix got better.
Okay, can we
the
talk
worst
about...
caster went down,
can we talk
but
about
the bad battle engine got good.
Another buff that we mentioned earlier that directly affects this faction, which I think is wonderful. The smallest colossal in the game, Tiberian, got an incredible buff because he can shake everything. And he can just get right on anybody.
That's actually not true. He can't shake Death Chill.
He also can't shake Stall.
Stall. True. He can't be affected by Stall.
He can't shake it either.
I stall your elephant.
He can still be Death Chill because Lilith 3 can still Death Chill. Only the Pistol Wraith got errated. Lilith can still Death Chill Tiberian.
Oh, that's going to be horrible.
And more importantly, to Jeremy's credit, he can still be Killboxed. Magnus 2, bro. Magnus 2.
Tiberian's amazing.
But it still allows him to move.
That's true. He can just not move in 2 directions of your choice.
Yeah. That's terrible.
That's a 50% reduction in direction, sir.
To be fair, 50%? You do have to get Magnus within 12 of him.
That's fine. He can't get you.
Why not?
What is Scorn going to do? Shoot you with their battle engine?
They're going to push you.
That's probably what's going to happen. You should knock him down.
And they will fucking... If you're old, you'll die.
No, but it's okay. He's got Feign Death. You just knock him down, right?
Not that one.
He doesn't... that's bad. That's not good.
Does that round out all the errata?
I think so. We might have
except for some minor, wording corrections.
Yeah, and dumb stuff.
Yeah.
I think they brought all of the Bone Shakers in line to be the same wording or something like that.
Yeah, Bone Shaker got just universal. This is what it is.
This is what Bone Shaker does now because there was a discrepancy amongst 2 of the 3 Bone Shakers.
I think the new Retcaster, they made his feet.
Yeah, Thyron now has a duration on his feet.
Yeah. Which I think significantly weakens the faction.
I prefer when Crusher had no duration and just you feed it on turn 1 and your whole army had overtaken Cleave.
You know, that's strong.
That's fucking amazing.
That's amazing. Now, let's say hypothetically that Thyron's feat did not have a duration.
It would be not nearly as good as Crusher with no duration.
I still think Retribution with that on every model in the game would be weak as fuck and isn't a faction.
Fact.
Isn't it really funny that people notice the Blades of Vengeance not lasting for 1 turn, and everyone was like, "Wow, that's a really strong feat. It lasts for the whole game," and then they just politely walked away.
No one cared.
No one cared.
That's amazing.
No one picked him up. No one tried to take advantage of it as some douche tournament style thing where they were like, "He doesn't say it in the bulls." No one even. They could buy him at Gen Con or whatever it was. Or
he was playable at the event he was released at.
No. Change your fucking terminology. He was never playable. Okay,
he
was able to be played.
Legal.
Yeah,
you were able to put him on the table.
I apologize.
To this day, one of my secret goals is one day to show up at a major event and have been practicing Retribution for years and nobody knew it. And then all of a sudden, I just unload some sort of ridiculous Retribution tech and everybody's like, "Oh my god, it's the Retribution player!"
He's playing Ron because it's the obvious play.
Yeah, and it's all of a sudden you have no idea what Gareth's going to do, and Gareth just ruins your day.
Actually, I was playing against Danny with this thing with Gareth in this game. I was honestly a little worried there for a minute because I never played against Gareth. But when he wound up popping. It was against Feora too, and he wound up popping his feet, and he was up 3 inches away from Feora too. And I'm like, I might honestly die right now because if I can't kill you because I can't spend anything to do it, I might miss you a bunch of times. I can't do anything. So I was like, I guess, oh my gosh, shit, I gotta hit you.
I guess I'll battle my Judicator and punch you. Oh, I hit, you're dead.
Actually what happened. It was all for a serious minute, I was like, man, why is he standing he's within my whole army? All of his shit's all the way over there. His caster is inches from mine. He said he's done. Don't I just like I'm look? Okay, everybody,
where's the trap?
everybody out there listening to this, please just agree with me on this and like think about every time you've ever played the game and your opponent does something and you are 100% positive that you have them dead to rights. Like they're just like there is nothing. But in the back of your head, you think like, there's no way they just did that, and you keep looking for the trap. Like, what? No, because there's no way. I just win now. So, and you don't want to be the dick and be like, why'd you do that, asshole? So you're thinking to yourself, it's like, God.
Meanwhile, this is a 10% assassination. And
Is this
just
like
an
what-
idiot?
Is this like when I put Magnus out in the middle of the board and just cat a bullet? And people are like, he's just right.
Max did this to me in a game. I'm telling you, he ran Scar 2 up and like had all this shit just move up, and I was playing Kraos 1. I'm like, and I'm watching everything just come up, and it's all going there. And I know my distance on this assassination. I'm like, okay, he's definitely within range. Like, and I keep looking. And this is the only game I've ever played against Max. Like, seriously, the one game. And you know how much I love Max. So I'm sitting there looking at this. I'm like, oh no, I don't get something. Like, I'm like, she's not immune to knockdown, right? He's like, nope. I'm like,
Did you feed?
does anything have shield guard? Like, you didn't feed? Like, So I keep looking. Like, I'm sorry.
12 minutes later. Are you
Dude,
sure she's not immune to
No,
knockdown?
30 minutes of my clock went by, and I'm sitting there trying to, like, because there's no way. This is his first turn. Like, this is top of 2, and I'm like, on my turn, I'm like, I know I have him. He's dead. It's just like,
And you said Scar 1, right?
this is Scar 2. He didn't feed or anything. He's just standing there.
Doesn't she have no sleeping on the child?
No,
No,
the solo
that's
does.
the
And the solo
Warmachine.
wasn't in his list. So I'm looking over, and I'm like, so I start going on my turn, like, and the first Redeemer shoots a rocket and kills her. I'm like,
That was it?
and Max is like, good game. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. Like, fuck you. Like, what the hell was that?
I don't understand.
So that's 90% of games with Retribution. Like, they're doing things, and the whole time I'm like, I'm missing something.
Where's your good stuff at?
Like, shit, what does that thing do? It's like, that's my Colossal. It's like, yeah, but like, does it have attacks or anything?
I love when people are like, I'm going to play this unit of Mage Hunters against Sevi because that's going to murder him. I'm like, yeah, good luck with that. Good luck living through 2 Ashes to Ashes, an Adjudicator, and a Redeemer. Good luck with that.
Blessing of Vengeance has a word with you, gentlemen. God, which actually, okay, here, Anson Durstech that somebody wrote. Tell me how amazingly broken this is. Instead of running all the other bullshit you're running, you run Revengers. That way, when something goes in and hits your chode-ass fucking infantry, it gets pushed an inch away, because it actually hit a Revenger, and it's done. Game over.
That is the best way to stop an assassination, is when they charge your caster, they get pushed an inch away because they hit the Revenger behind your caster.
Yep, and you're like, boom, yummy, bitch. And they're all like, they're so mad. They're so mad. And you're all like, game, motherfucker. It's like, Durst has all kinds of crazy... I hate
Parker,
Durst.
do you know what's going on at this point? I'm so
Yes.
confused.
Parker's
I'm
eating this up. He's all
following,
like,
but
he's
I don't-
writing this shit down like, so this is how I...
Okay. I
Fucking
think we're
Durst.
done talking about the errata now. So, overall, Signar,
This is the longest.
Cell. This is the Cell faction. Get rid of your Signar
Well,
now.
let's not forget Body and Soul. You can get it cheap on eBay
That's
now.
true. Much like when Bradigus got, quote, I'm holding up air quotes, nerfed, Dan Samuels was buying World Watchers on eBay for $5 a pop, and he built the cheapest Bradigus list ever. Obviously, Signar went down as a power because they got no buffs, they got no bonuses from the errata, and they only got negatives. So clearly they went down. But so let's say out of 12, they were number 4. They probably went down to what, like 6? They're still really strong. They answer a lot of the problems in the tournament.
They're still incredibly strong.
Yeah. So Trix obviously down as well. Gorman was really popular in their list as well. Obviously the Denny 2 change, though Warwick Sharon's got a little bit weaker. I think
How
Pistol
so?
Race because they had Shadow Bind on the melee weapon. So
Let's
they
look
went
at-
down a little bit.
Go the other direction. What got stronger?
Scorn definitely came up a little bit, so they might be ahead of minions now.
That's not true. How
Still
do you get ahead
stronger?
of minions? Minions OP, minion over Menoth, Menoth over everything else.
Legion went down a little bit because now the Naga can have shake happen on his crit.
and some players may play an Archangel.
somebody might play the Archangel.
We can't count the Archangel buff as actually being good for their
That,
No, that's
faction.
a
might,
dark
that
Archangel's
might
still-
overshadow the Naga negative. Good call, Parker.
Actually, no. Okay, I'm telling you, Jeremy's right about this. Somebody may decide to play an Archangel, which is actually going to be detrimental for their faction.
That's true. That's a good point.
They're
what do you think,
tempted.
Parker? Do you have a rebuttal?
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's just like,
But it looks so good, and the Animus isn't that bad anymore.
And with Thagrush, I basically had 2 of them.
Putting an Archangel on the field just immediately make you a worse player because you go because as soon as somebody swings at your War Beast, you're like, oh, don't worry, he's armor 20. what the fuck? You immediately, every time you would look down to this stat line, you would die a little bit inside. It's just...
Legion players having to care what their model stats are. That's interesting.
Because usually Legion players are used to looking down and going, oh, they're at 21, 24. Go ahead and swing. This time, nope.
Game over, bitch.
Okay, so Legion, probably a wash. Scorn definitely came up a little bit. Trolls came up slightly. Signar down a little bit. Tricks down a little, probably less. I don't think Kador was really affected at all. I mean, Gorman coming down a little bit didn't really affect them because they probably just kill whatever they were going to control anyway, unless you're playing like the mass gun line.
I don't think, if anything, they may have come up a little bit because when control weakens at all, Kador gets a little stronger.
That's
like
true.
Maybe in general, Kador just hates being controlled. The whole faction loses to control casters. So the fact that 2 of them got heavily nerfed is good.
It's going to be kind of interesting watching Haley armies fight Kador gun lines now. That's going to be cool. It's like, okay, pop my feet. And they're like, we're all just shooting again.
Well, I mean, that's what they did anyway.
That's my
It's just Joe gets to go before the Winter Guard now. Probably Mercenaries came down a decent amount because the nerf to Gorma is actually pretty impactful to them because they lack in the armor cracking pretty much as well as Signar does, if not more so.
They really struggle to control also. They don't have a control.
But they now have one of the strongest control feats in the game with Magnus 2. I'm not kidding. That's actually probably the strongest control feat in the game right now.
Oh, Jesus, titty
Killbox?
Christ.
Did you say Jesus titty fucking Christ?
Yeah, you did.
Yes. There's Magnus 2. That guy is so horrible.
I'm not saying he's a good caster. I'm saying he has the strongest control feat.
I don't know. Gorton's is pretty...
Gorton's is good, but it does not prevent things from happening. It just reduces the numbers. He literally says you cannot come towards whatever side of the board I choose.
But you have to be so close to them, you're dead anyway.
Yeah, but that's kind of what Haley's been dealing with for a long time.
No, it isn't. Just
shut up. Parker, shut up.
She can do it from 18 fucking
Can I point out
away.
a buff that they actually gave to mercenaries?
What's that?
Cephalix, they actually have pistol rates. That can take damage. And I mean, from our literal 20 minutes of conversation about how that's OP.
They can't take the Soul Takers.
Ooh, that's true. So no Soul Taker synergy there. Okay, Zal 2, though.
Does anyone disagree with what we said about the factions? Everybody
Somebody's going to.
Opinion? Talked about as much as we can about, I'm going to do air quotes again, the errata.
Actually, I think we made some very solid points on a lot of things there. We kind of bunny trailed a little bit here and there, but the errata.
I mean, we weren't trying to bury the hatchet in the errata very much. I mean, everyone has talked about it. We've been to a couple tournaments since it's come out, and I know it's affected some of my games and made them less annoying to play with Gorman being nerfed. It's only a major errata point.
I still saw Haley's feet used to great effect.
Right. I mean, she's clearly still good. I don't think anyone should be fucking burning their models at their house or anything. And if you are, then you're probably not part of the community that we consider to be a great community. So
what if?
Well, to be fair, those people are the ones that are playing Age of Signar.
What if they own Thyron?
If they own
Thyron got okay.
I'm sorry that you were
biggest
tricked
nerf
into buying that.
Biggest nerf in the game. Thyron's feet only last 1 turn.
I know. Right went
has
down.
no effect on the game at all.
Right.
I love that there was a caster in this game that had no end to their feet, and nobody gave a shit.
That is amazing.
I love it.
I am going to point out that someone in our local area thought that was a thing.
What?
Richard thought that it was actually an unlimited feat.
Uh-huh.
Richard who?
Johnson.
You're lying.
No, I'm not. He posted it in our group. He's like, guys, did you know that his feet
There's no way he was
forever?"
serious.
I think he was serious.
There's no way.
What was he doing in California?
I don't know. Smoking pot? Isn't that what they do in California? You become
I think
homeless, live on the beach, and smoke pot. I thought that was the
That
whole
sounds
thing.
wonderful.
And then he did drive home through New Mexico, which is like...
And Oklahoma.
I don't know
just
about
like
your you guys. I don't know about your California Richard, but my California Richard is really tanned.
He's really He's like a big potato.
He went out surfing every day.
I just
He's
honestly
just
feel like
really. He's really tan. He's got really long blonde hair.
anybody else just picturing a scene from Magic Mike right now? Like that's where I'm taking
like in
this.
my California Richard looks like Point Break. California Richard.
Oh, I love it. Bodie Richard.
Oh my god.
It's amazing. You know,
I really hope he's listening. I really hope.
He's messaging me right now.
Is he really?
Yeah, he is.
So,
Okay, final statement.
side note, I want to point...
Final statement.
Are we summarizing what we thought about the errata? Is that what we're doing?
Whatever you want.
Oh, shit.
Closing statement. You can say whatever you want. Spence said dumb shit.
This is what I say. As soon as the errata came out, somebody asked me, like, what do you think about it? And the first thing I says was, They took all the things in the game that were bad and they made them not bad. Like a perfect summarization of what they did for this errata. Just like, hey, there's some things in this game that are bad. We made them not bad. And we're like, hey, thanks. Like, I thought nothing got destroyed. Nothing got Mark II'd.
Right.
And nothing got Mark II'd. And yet, we don't need a Mark III now to fix a bunch of stuff. So they found, they're like Jurassic Park,
They found a nice even ground.
Privateer Press found a way. Like, that's what they were able to
Scientists
do.
were obsessed to see whether or not they could. They didn't think about whether or not they should.
Yeah. They were able to spontaneously change.
God damn it, this is going to be so much. Can we get more Jeff Goldblum involved with this?
I know where you're going with this.
Here we go. I got some water and my fish here.
You got that thing? Look, he's doing the Chaos Fist thing.
All right. Jeremy, do you have a closing statement?
We did get our first subscriber to Patreon.
What is that? I saw that. I have no idea what that is.
They give us money of their own free will.
What?
Someone donated money to our cause.
Side note, by the way, whoever posted that throw video, dude, I'm telling you, find out who that dude is and call that motherfucker out. He's awesome.
We should give him something.
Yeah, dude, I'm sorry. He's promoting us. He's some random dude who's all like, badasses, listen to these motherfuckers. I mean, I didn't read his quote, but that's pretty much what he said. He's all like...
I'm going to point out that this has now happened to where someone has approached us at a group. Because if you ever come up to us when we're at an event, we're filming, or we're just playing, we're hanging out, thank you for saying that you listen, because we get to see how many people actually listen. Yeah.
And also, you're allowed to punch Brandon in the face.
Yeah, if that happens, I'm not even going to get mad. But because normally when people say that they listen, they come to me privately and they say, hey, I listen to your podcast, it's great. And I tell the other people on the podcast, like, that didn't happen. I'm like, no, it did happen. So for the first time in Springfield at Killing Girl, someone came up to us as a group, is like, please, thank you, keep making videos. And I was like, I told you these people exist. They actually listen.
Pictures or it didn't happen.
Dude,
You were there. You were one of the persons they spoke to.
I honestly like hearing people listen. I like feedback. So, I mean...
To be fair, he wasn't part of the group then.
Right.
No, I like when people actually say shit, dude. I mean, it's the most amazing shit in the world. And if I like feedback. If I'm just a fucking autistic monkey that rambles on here, say, Spence, everybody's great, but fuck, dude, shut the fuck up. I'd like to hear that.
Well, we're keeping you around for the sex appeal.
You realize I'm not wearing a shirt right now.
Well, I'm not wearing pants.
I'm picturing my Spence like an
8-pound, 6-ounce baby
Spence, like Iceman in Top Gun at the volleyball scene. Spence, like that's what I'm imagining my Spence.
God, it's amazing. Because you're dangerous. That's right, I'm dangerous. Iceman. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I'm gonna have to insert music there,
dude. Actually, you know what? I want to point out. Like, can we bring this up for Cody? Because I love Cody. Okay, love Cody. Are we going to bring up the wonderful tools that Crawford uses while he's playing?
Oh, yeah.
The Crawford cheat stick, which, by the way, those are actually now available through purchase from L2 Wargame. Yeah. Let us know. We're going to have your own customized Crawford cheat stick.
And don't worry, they're all different lengths.
You pick a number, and we'll make it that length plus or minus an inch.
Well, no, it goes on the Chile scale of fail.
Oh, yeah. We got to get Jake measuring that.
You guarantee that there will be exactly 21 inches used in total diameter of the device, but it will not be in any way in increments of 1 inch.
And this is an oval.
I'm just saying, like, we got to get the Sheely fail of scale on it.
Scale of fail, not fail of scale.
I don't know.
Failed to scale.
It'll be like quick dice math printed on there, and it's just wrong.
Yeah.
I'm going to start having Jake do that all the time. I'm going to start
percentages to hit 75% on 7.
Start submitting something every time we podcast. It's like, okay, on tonight's Sheely fail of scale of fail.
We should have that. We should have like 4 or 5 segments that we wrap up every episode with. And today on the scale of fail, we have
hopefully we have
cheeseburgers.
New Patreon subscribers.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, if you guys want to give us your money for our monies or something, how does this work?
They just give us money once a month. And
that's nice.
And then it allows
in all honesty, whoever supports us in any way, thank you very much, because this is not free.
And the newest guy is Terrence.
Thank you, Terrence.
Terrence.
Do we have any other information we want to give him a shout out or anything?
Terrence is a motherfucking badass.
Also that.
I'm actually fully aware that Terrence is a 15-inch cock.
I like to picture my Terrence like he has a predator mask and a laser on his shoulder. Like that's how I picture my Terrence.
I like to picture my Terrence with a Chewbacca mask and a cowboy hat.
Yeah.
In assless chaps.
I don't... What?
That's
kind of too far there, guy.
Okay. The way you picture Terrence is weird.
All right, I think we.
And only one out of the four of us has been drinking.
I know.
There's 4. Oh, Parker. I forget.
I'm here.
I like to picture my Parker here where I'm at all the time.
Now, I can't remember. How many pain medication pills am I supposed to take with my alcohol?
Yes.
I believe they said 7.
7? All right, I'll be back. Okay, for real, though, I think we need to wrap this up. If you haven't gotten enough of us, please tune in for our next episode. Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye, Brandon.
Parker?
What the hell's that look for, Jeremy?
I don't know what's
All
going
right, on
on.
the count of 3, we're all going to say goodbye. Ready? Goodbye.
You don't count well.
You didn't count at all.
I like to picture my Brandon able to count.
You didn't even.
All right, 1, 2, 3, go.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Wait, let's try to harmonize here.
All right.
Goodbye.
I don't know what's going on right now.
Okay, so I was talking to someone online, and he actually asked a fairly valid question that I thought was interesting in a way, but it made my gears start turning on. I think I have the answer to it because I'm a fucking genius, but I'd like to hear everybody except for Parker's opinion on it too. He asked, do you think games are getting easier, or do you think gamers are getting better? I thought that was a valid question because I mean, that's progressively what's happening. People are getting better. And the way it made me just like turning gears in my head was like, I believe games inherently across the board, all games, video games, miniature games, all games, are a puzzle. It's a bunch of pieces and they fit together a certain way to accomplish a certain goal, okay? And the things they give you are tools to accomplish that goal. They're parts of the puzzle. The tools are part of the puzzle. So I think what winds up happening is we have gotten to the point where gamers are now we have more research time, we have more information sharing, we have more capacity to actually put the puzzle together. We have more effective tools. If it's literally just a puzzle, if we're doing that analogy, then or metaphor, I don't know the English. So if you have all the pieces there and you have a picture of it and then they all have numbers on them, that's a lot of tools to put that puzzle together. Let's say you take away the numbers. Well, you have to be better at it to do the puzzle effectively. There are so many tools. Like, I mean, there are podcasts. There are stat calculators. There are a million lists that everybody's putting together. So we have all these tools in order to get better at the game. So I think we're just getting better at the game, and games themselves are literally just puzzles that are different colors and flashy things.
We're getting better at being better at the game.
I actually think I think the solution is something you hinted to there in your little speech, Spence. I don't think players in particular are getting better. I think the way that we communicate are becoming more sophisticated, because there are games. You know, if you ever get to operate in a small meta, or you just start playing a game and you're learning how to play it, and there seems to be like this little understanding of the game that seems to build amongst you and the 4 other guys you're playing with. As soon as a 5th guy drops into the meta who has been playing the game somewhere else, all of a sudden your ideas of that the game just expand exponentially. Like this.
Absolutely.
And so I think since now players are starting to get very savvy about, the millennial generation is like coming into gaming in a really hard way. They're just like, now we have fully taken over kind of the millennial ideal. And so we don't operate in these little cabals in our basements anymore. Now we're constantly looking for and sharing and communicating. The very first thing that players are often told, like you meet a player who wants to get into the game, and the first thing he tells you is, I was reading this online. Like, for however good or ill, you find things online that aren't true. The fact that the very first thing we are doing as gamers is looking for other game experiences other people have had, it means that all of us are coming into all of our individual games with a huge shared collective experience that wasn't always shared before. So if you're willing to go and look for those things like this podcast, then you're automatically going to be quote unquote better at the game because you have a shared experience. Every time I play against somebody from a different meta, I learn something every single time. It's the reason why I still try to travel to events, even though I have no good reason to. I'm not interested in winning a giant event anymore. But I still go because every single time I come against a player who does something that I've never seen before. And I thought I knew everything there was to know about this game. And every single time.
I have despite being as casual as I am, I have way more fun playing against new people that I've never played against. So every time we go out to any one of these places, I'm like so excited about that. Then every week comes around, it's like, hey, you gonna come play games? Like, I'm gonna sit at home and jerk off. It's like, I'm gonna go play the same 5 people over and over and over.
I know you never come out to play me.
I just always invite you to come over and jerk off. But well, it's just. I mean, I know we're kind of getting off.
There
on
are no
a trail
winners
here.
at that
Well,
game.
my thought is, okay, this is how I'm going to try and connect it to it, because I was bunny trailing over to that in the fact that I feel like whenever you play any of these ideas that have been considered really crazy strong, which take away your opponent's capacity to play the game, it takes away part of it's you creating a puzzle, or it goes back to asking questions and answering questions with an army. You're asking such a question and not letting them answer it. You're playing by yourself. So it's like, does it take so much away from the game? Does it take so much away from the community? And I wonder if that is toxic. You know, and when we first started doing this podcast, you know, with you guys, we were talking about how like it has a great community, and that's something I don't want to stop mentioning, because this is generally a great community. We have a lot of really awesome people who play, and it promotes a lot of really good things about it. And we haven't mentioned that in a long time, and I think that this is kind of hinting on that. You know, do you want to be the guy who sits down and I'm only going to play the quote-unquote broken caster and the broken tier list and the stupid OP models, and every group, if you sat down, like he's talking about the microcosms of people playing the game, it's you and your 5 buddies playing at your basement, or you and the 3 of y'all who happen to have bought the game together, and one dude happens to put forth this much more effort, so he's, you know, beating everybody because he knows this little trick that nobody else has invested that much into. Right. Do you want to be the person who sits down and says, I'm only going to play Haley 2, and crushes all of y'all despite what you're playing? And I know that once you get to a certain level of play, which, I mean, this is L2 Wargame, so it's all different levels of play. Like, Brandon will play Card Chef against anything. He does not care.
I can't tell you how many times I play Card Chef in the Haley too.
Like, it's
at least 12.
Well, the thing is, like, I'll say though, it's like, it's so much more rewarding and fun when you get to the point where you are very much about, like, putting things together and figuring out how they work. That is, like, in your head. Whenever I see you put things together, like, when it comes to modeling or putting a list on the table, that's very much how you are. Me, I just like, fuck it, just put models together and curse a lot and, you know, talk about hating babies and shit. That's how I play the game. I mean, it's casual and fun. Well, it's like, but like that mindset you have of being able to put these puzzles together and take them apart, you see it differently on the table. But you are at a place level where I'm not going to say you're one of the best players in the world or anything, but you have qualified. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't feel anything else with your dick in my mouth. But
well, to be fair, he did qualify before Tom Guan.
Ooh.
I mean, if you had to rate us, I qualified before Tom Guan ever did.
He
didn't win a qualifier until I won a qualifier.
I'm not gonna try and compare anybody to the Tom Guan, okay? Tom Guan is second only to Max.
Only to Max.
So, back to what I was saying about Jake Shealy. So, no, Jake had to get mentioned again. I think that it's kind of interesting to see like a higher level player like Parker. Parker's he's an incredibly nice guy. I love Parker. He's one of my favorite people around here to talk to.
I'm here, right here, yeah.
Oh yeah, that guy. But I'm telling you, like Parker, I have hated playing against you every time, but I don't want to ever say no to it because I feel like I learned something every time I play against you. But it's like Parker wants to play these top end casters and he doesn't want to be a dick about it, but he's nice. You know what I mean? So it's like it creates this thing where it's like
I think this is
sour.
This is an interesting step.
Yeah.
Can we be a boy band? I want to be a boy band so bad.
Well, 2 of us have the shirts already.
Oh, ordering it? No.
Yeah, how do you not have a shirt? Because
I don't like bowling
you got your sunglasses and you got your bowling shirt.
I don't
like Death Clock. You're like a badass.
Like Dan.
Yeah. Wait. Yeah. Yeah.
Wait. I don't...
Okay, seriously, I've got to go back for an hour. Can we please sign out?
I thought we did
not signed out.
All right, this is Brandon. Goodbye.
So I'm thoroughly curious about like it's a bowling shirt.
Yeah.
I have 2. Suck it.
Yeah. This is the Midwest, and I am white trash, but I just don't want to be that.
Fine. So you want to be different.
So I have a question.
Yes, Parker.
In that last podcast we just did, we got playfully racist, right? Like I don't know, like what do you call it? Like late night talk show radio racist.
Jeremy, please let this be its own segment where he's explaining it all on his own. Go ahead, Mark. Keep going.
Yeah. I never want to cross the line and become actually racist. You tell me.
I think that this is literally where you're at right now. If you're considering whether or not any bit of racism is ever going to be quote unquote okay, that is actually kind of a bad thing. No racism is ever okay. making light of it and pointing out how stupid it is, that's something. But like,
Okay.
I don't think Parker, I wouldn't talk to you if you were racist. I'm a liberal. I'm a bleeding heart liberal.
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, any race is better than a woman.
So